everybody, and welcome back for week number 7 of the College Football Betting Breakdown Show presented by Scores and Odds. I'm your host, Sean, PSU Fans 2 Newsham. Join me, per usual, Alex Fearmyturtle Hardin. Alex, you had a decent week last week. Weren't able to make any games, but how are you feeling going into this week?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I think we were both 2-1 last week on the show, so solid momentum. Still clawing back to 500. For me, your record's pretty solid so far, but yeah, got some good games this week. Some really big games actually this week, so excited to get into it.
Yeah, I looked at the slate, and it looks like a pretty decent slate overall. Yeah, so we'll do a quick review here on the week number 6 games that we had. We actually split one game last week, and it was the Oregon-Arizona game. We both liked Oregon minus 12.5 against Arizona, and Oregon blew them out. It was 49-22. That was not close. That was a much better result for us when we duplicated a game compared to last week when we did and we failed. I liked Tennessee minus 2.5 against LSU on FanDuel. Tennessee blew them out 140-13. Then I unfortunately got a bit unlucky. I liked NC State minus 3 against Florida State. I thought NC State was a better team. NC State won, but it was just by 2, and they played most of the game without their starting quarterback. So probably got a bit unlucky there. But overall, 2-1 is okay. It moves me to 10-7-1 overall through 6 weeks thus far. So, Alex, how about you talk about your bets last week?
TCU Kansas over. I believe the line it was important to get in early on that because we gave out 67.5 on the show, and it ended up on 69. And I think by kick had moved between 69 and 70, I believe. So it was important that you got in early on that one. So that went well. The Auburn plus 29.5. It looked pretty good for a while. Then it looked bad. Then it looked good again. And then Georgia just finally put them away with the touchdown at the end. So I don't regret that play. I'd play it again, but yeah, definitely came out on the wrong side with that one.
Yep. So that moves Alex to 7-11 overall through 6 weeks. Hopefully he can start picking some games back up on me. Well, actually, hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully by the end of the season, I'm up by like 15 games because that would be humorous, at least from my perspective. I don't know if Alex would agree, but that'd be a pretty good time for me.
Yeah.
Silence, guys.
I'm not all about that. Yeah.
Yeah, total silence, guys. Well, I left him speechless there. He did not have a rebuttal. But yeah, so we're going to go into week number 7 here. As always, if you guys are watching, please smash the like and subscribe button. We really appreciate it. It helps us get going. We are heading into week 7. We're halfway through the season as of right now, so that's pretty exciting at this point. We've got a lot of big games, as Alex talked to. There's a lot of big games in terms of impact into the playoffs this weekend. So be interesting to see who can come out on top with some of these games. All right, first game of the weekend, we're going to start with on Thursday. We have Baylor, West Virginia. Baylor opened at minus 3.5. It's still right around there. And then we see the totals around 55. West Virginia is going to be without freshman running back CJ Donaldson. He got stretchered off, unfortunately, last week and will be unavailable for this game. I probably would lean a little bit towards Baylor here. I think Baylor's the better team. We've watched West Virginia games, and there's just been a lot left to be desired from West Virginia for me. And Baylor's looked pretty solid in their games, but they don't look like a team that's going to go out there and blow anyone out. So for me, this is going to be a stay away. I'm not really interested in either side in this one. But what's your thoughts here in the Baylor-West Virginia game?
Yeah, I'm not interested either. I think this is actually could turn into a pretty ugly game. It could be like one of those typical like NFL Thursday games where like both offenses just do like kind of nothing. So I lean to the under here, but I don't feel great about it. Wish we're getting a few more points. Because West Virginia does have some weapons out wide with like Ford Wheaton, and Baylor has some guys who can make some big plays like Monterey Baldwin. I haven't seen much of him, but I know he has like track star speed, and he's scored a couple of long touchdowns in the season. So when you have guys like that, it does threaten the under a bit when the number's that low. So for me, this game's a pass. I just don't expect much out of it, and it's probably going to be close. So the numbers look correct to me.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next game, we move into SMU Navy. As you guys see, SMU is minus 12.5. The total is about 58 in this game. We saw some injuries last week for SMU. We saw Jake Bailey got injured really early in the game, did not return. Rashee Rice was reportedly dealing with a turf toe, but he ended up having like 19 targets in the game for SMU. So did not look to hold him back. So I'll let you go first here in this SMU Navy game.
So this is not a good Navy team. Like we've seen good Navy teams in the past where they're tough to play because they move the ball constantly. The offense, they don't get on the field much because Navy just keeps the ball away. But this Navy team is not good. They're 102nd in the country in success rate. So when a team like Navy is not staying on schedule, that forces them into passing downs, which they don't want to be in because they just want to run it. Like 3 or 4 yards a carry and keep moving the chains. But when you're not doing that and keeping on schedule, makes it really tough. They have the lowest success rate in the country on passing downs. So that kind of tells me what this Navy offense is. They're not as good at the thing that they want to be good at, forces them into bad situations where they're even worse. So I don't see how SMU has a problem here. But I mean, this SMU defense has not been good, but that doesn't automatically make the Navy offense that much better. Navy's been getting roasted through the air. They have been solid versus the run. So I don't know if they're just like, I haven't really watched any Navy games. I don't know if they're selling out on the run more than usual, but I can see Mordecai and Rice kind of putting a good game together here. Like even if Navy gives Rice extra attention, like I don't see them slowing him down at all. And SMU has some other weapons. I'm sure maybe Jake Bailey will play 2 or 3 snaps, and then that'll be enough for him to get there.
Yeah, so here's the thing for me. You're talking about Navy's offense being bad, and it is, but SMU could struggle mightily to stop the triple option here. It is definitely possible. I'm not interested in any of the lines. I think that either SMU is going to win big or it's going to be a relatively close game, and Navy could eke out a win. So the play I would actually make here, my favorite option would be Navy money line. You see you're getting about plus 375 here on the Navy money line. And if they do struggle, if SMU does struggle to stop and contain the triple option, which is definitely a possibility, Navy can win this game. So I think of all things in this game, I would take the money line from the Navy side of things. But in terms of what we're looking at here with the lines and the totals, I'm not going to really be interested because Navy is not as good as what they are normally you're accustomed to seeing, as Alex alluded to. So I think they probably will lose this game. And like Alex said, if they are trailing, they're going to struggle because if they're forced into pass downs, that's when they really, really fall apart. So I think Navy money line is the best option here, but I'm not super interested. What's your thoughts on that money line call?
I mean, if you think they're alive, I mean, yeah, go for it. It seems like a situation where I do agree that it could go. There's a wide range of outcome in that game, so might as well take advantage where you're getting on the bet that you're actually getting paid off on. So yeah,
definitely. All right, next game we go to my Penn State Nittany Lions traveling, unfortunately, to Ann Arbor to face the Michigan Wolverines. As you guys see, it's right around a touchdown. That's actually what I thought the line should be. I thought the line should be Michigan minus a touchdown here. Totals around 52, 52 and a half. I think it's a really fair line. I think it's going to be difficult for Michigan to fully put Penn State away. I think Penn State's a solid enough team. They got some veteran leadership. Sean Clifford started like 1 billion games for Penn State. The Penn State running backs are super talented. Their receiving options are really strong as well. So I think Penn State's a pretty solid team. That said, I think Michigan is pretty sturdy this year. They've really relied on Corum recently to carry a massive workload, and I think that will continue here. I think it's going to be kind of a slog. I think that it's going to be a difficult game for either team to really pull away during. Obviously, I'm out here hoping Penn State can pull out the win because if Penn State pulls out the win, they're realistically 1 game from a potential playoff spot because they have the Ohio State game in a couple weeks that will essentially decide whether or not they have a shot at getting to the playoffs or not if they can get through this one. So I have my concerns. I think that Michigan is a good team. I think they're pretty solid. But I think the way that Michigan's built, it's built in a way that another good team can shut them down because they rely so heavily on the run game and really lacking in the pass game. So what's your thoughts here for Michigan, Penn State?
Yeah, I think the line is fair. I lean Penn State in the points, but it's not something that I'm gonna bet. It's a stay away for me because I do think the lines are fair. It's interesting with Penn State is they have only faced 24 rush attempts per game, which is 6th in the country. Like teams have they've faced so much into pass plays. So like if you look at their results from like a yardage perspective, they're 102nd in the country in pass yards allowed. However, they're only allowing like 5.8 yards per attempt, which is near elite. So like they're not bad versus the pass. They've just faced a lot of pass attempts, so their counting stats are up. And they're fifth in terms of like rush yards allowed, really low yards per carry on that. So I think Penn State's defense is like actually like super elite. They're probably a better unit than Michigan's defense, which I think can keep them in the game. I don't know about the Penn State offense, but they do have some veteran leadership and they have some skill guys that can make big plays. So feel pretty comfortable with them staying in the game. So I like the points a little bit here.
Yeah, I think Penn State can win the game. I definitely think it is an option that they can come out victorious. I think Michigan could win too. I think it's a pretty evenly matched game. So, like you said, like leaning Penn State makes sense because I think that these guys are pretty even. I just know that going to these, typically in the Big Ten, when these teams are traveling to another big team's stadium, it is difficult to match up with because the games in Ann Arbor, the games at the Horseshoe, the games at Beaver Stadium are loud and they're very difficult to maintain as an opposition team because of how loud they are. So that's why I would lean Michigan. If I thought Penn State was a better team, I would definitely like the Penn State side, but I think the teams are pretty even. And then I'm just factoring in the home field advantage here. And I think it definitely is very impactful in the Big Ten in these situations. All right, next game, we have Kansas against Oklahoma. Oklahoma's -7 here. We don't know about Jalen Daniels. I think he's not going to play. I think he hurt his shoulder last week, for those unaware. He fell on it. The way he reacted definitely looked like a dislocated shoulder or broken collarbone type play. So I'm very hesitant to think that he's going to play. So I think we're going to see Jason Bean. Oklahoma sure looks like they've given up. I know that last week was obviously difficult without Dylan Gabriel, but they just looked awful, and they've looked awful for the last few weeks, and they've looked like they don't have anything left to give, whereas Kansas is still fighting. Kansas still cares. They look like they care. I just don't know if Jason Bean can get the job done, so I will stay away as of now. On the Oklahoma side, we're definitely going to have to wait and see if Dylan Gabriel plays. If Dylan Gabriel does not play, I like Kansas because I watched what they did last week with Bevel, what they did with they used literally receivers, tight ends, anyone at quarterback because they were just trying to do anything, and it was a struggle all around. So as of right now, I'm going to stay away from this game. But if Gabriel plays, I probably would go Oklahoma. If Kansas plays, I'd probably go Daniels, or I'd probably go Kansas. The issue is right now, I think we're going to see Jason Bean, and I think we're going to see Dylan Gabriel. So I would lean Kansas, but I'm not super interested in this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Gabriel plays. I think Jalen Daniels is out. So I think it's been interesting with Oklahoma because the odds makers and like the advanced metrics and stuff that factor in stuff from previous years have been really slow to adjust to Oklahoma and what they actually are this year as a team. Even when Gabriel's played, like they haven't been spectacular. They've been super inconsistent. Their defense has been really rough. They've been getting run all over. I think the Kansas offense is fine with Jason Bean. I think he's like kind of like a really good fit for what they're trying to do. So I don't think there's a huge drop off offensively for Kansas. So I lean the points. However, Kansas is not a good defense. So if Gabriel's back and they actually find some rhythm offensively, I could see Oklahoma definitely putting up points as well. But I definitely lean Kansas getting 7 here.
All right, next game, Iowa State at Texas. Iowa State, again, had another issue last week with Jarrell Brock. He went down injured, looked a bit shaky. Texas obviously smashed Oklahoma, but it was not really what you'd expect from Oklahoma. As you see here, the lines moved to around 16.5, totals around 49.5. I actually like Iowa State getting points here. I just think it's a lot of points for Texas to win by in a game where we're seeing probably a bit of a slog. I think it's going to be difficult for Iowa State to score, definitely, but I think they're also going to make it a bit difficult for Texas to score. So when Texas has to win by 3+ scores, that's a bit tricky for me here. So I think I would lean Iowa State thus far, but I definitely think Texas is a better team and will win this game. I just think it might be a pretty low scoring game. And if it's a low scoring game, I definitely think it's more favorable for Iowa State to sort of keep it close-ish. So what's your thoughts here?
I think Iowa State really misses Breece Hall, actually. Their rush game is kind of in shambles from an efficiency perspective. They just have lost a lot from the past versions of their team. They really struggle. Texas is a different tier of team than like a Kansas. I just remember watching like the Kansas Iowa State game and it got really ugly. I think Texas is definitely a step or two ahead of Kansas. So I mean, I don't have the same concerns. I think Texas could actually bury Iowa State here, and Iowa State struggles to score like 10 points. So I would actually lean Texas up to 17, but I'm not going to bet this game.
For sure. All right, next game. As you guys are going to notice, there's a theme here with games this weekend, and it is quarterback question marks. So going into this Alabama game, will Bryce Young play? We see the line is around 7.5, totals around 65.5. It's a big question for me whether Bryce Young plays. You and I both think as of now he plays, but I have my concerns based on the line. I would think it would be a bit wider if he was going to play. So what's your thoughts here? I'll let you take this one first.
Oh, I actually think that the line indicates that Bryce Young will play, especially because it's ticked up to 7.5. I think if Bryce Young was out, it'd be closer to like 4. Just my opinion, but I like Tennessee here. This is just like a massive game for Tennessee, like the biggest game in Knoxville in forever. I don't see how anyone can slow down the Tennessee offense, even Bama. My concern really is with the Tennessee defense. Can they get any stops whatsoever? Because I think even if Jalen Milroe's playing, I think they can kind of go up and down the field a bit on Tennessee. But I've had a little bit of concerns with Bama's offense all season, and they're kind of shown out last week without Bryce Young. But there'll be points here. I just think it'll be back and forth, and Tennessee will have a shot to win this. So I like getting 7.5.
Yeah, so I actually like Tennessee as well. I think that it's going to be difficult for Alabama to slow them down. I've not seen the same Alabama that we've seen in recent years. We've talked about it, but I think Tennessee's defense is terrible. The thing I actually really like here is the over. I like 65.5. I think both teams are going to have points in this game. If Milroe plays, that obviously hurts the idea of the overcoming because they're going to probably play a bit slower and be more run-oriented compared to if Bryce Young plays. If Bryce Young plays, I think they're just going to light it up in this game. Based on what his shoulder injury is, I think there could be re-injury possibilities as well for him. But I think I like 65.5 to over. I think that there could be just a boatload of points in this game. What's your thoughts on the over here?
Yeah, that's a good one. And the interesting thing about Tennessee is that they've actually been really good versus the run. They're a pretty good front. So like in a situation, and it's been Bama's passing game that we've kind of been worried about, and not worried about Bryce Young. It's just like the receivers are inconsistent. There's a lot of rotation. It's not like years past where you have these like 3 elite wide receivers locked in. They're just going to get open all day. There's a bit more question marks with this team. So, I mean, I do like the over, but I could see a situation where Bama's offense sputters a little bit more than they should probably versus this Tennessee defense.
Definitely. All right, next game we have Oklahoma State traveling to TCU. We see TCU minus 4.5 here. I've been pretty impressed with what we've seen from TCU. Our boy Quentin Johnston had a big week last week. Dude had like 19 targets after being non-existent in their offense. Oklahoma State defense does not look good. We expect their defense to be much better than what we've seen thus far this year. They got lit up by Bear Morton last week from Texas Tech. This game's a stay away for me for now. I think both teams could win. I think Dugan's looked fantastic. I think Spencer Sanders has looked fantastic. We saw Jaden Bray return last week for Oklahoma State. He was pretty productive and pretty active for them. I think it's a pretty even game. I could see a lot of points being scored here. The team I think that has more likelihood of sputtering is TCU. I know Dugan's been fantastic in every metric, is just in love with Dugan, but we've seen Max Dugan over the years, and I know he could have a struggle in him at some point, and this could be it. But for me, this game is stay away. What's your thoughts here?
I think there's going to be a lot of points, but 68 is kind of it's challenged. So I'm actually siding with Oklahoma State. I like getting points in this game. I think it should be basically a pick'em game, even with factoring home field. I'm not a big Oklahoma State guy in general, but I think their offense is just they're playing faster and they're more explosive than in years past. And it's not just like run the ball with Chuba Hubbard 35 times. They're going downfield. They're being more aggressive. Yeah, it's going to be a back and forth game, I think, but I do like getting points in this environment. So that's where I'm landing with this one.
For sure. All right, next game we have NC State traveling to Syracuse. So NC State is going to be without Devin Leary. Their defense is really strong. It looks like Leary will not play. They also have injuries to some other key offensive weapons as well. I'll let you take this one first. What's your thoughts here?
So I like NC State and getting the points still, probably. This is going to be an extremely gross game. I think Syracuse is actually going to have problems moving the ball here versus NC State defense. The issue is when NC State gets the ball, I don't feel great about their prospects of putting up a lot of points either. But in this game environment where I think it's going to be close, and I don't think it's a massive drop-off losing Devin Leary. I don't think he's anything special. So as long as they have something that's serviceable, and they did come back and win last week, I like getting 4 points here.
Yeah, for me, this one's a little bit tricky without Leary. I just think this could be a really, really difficult game for either team to score points in. I think NC State's really going to struggle to move the ball. I think Syracuse is also going to struggle to move the ball because of NC State's defense. I'm going to stay away as of now. I think that this game has the potential to be really, really ugly, which obviously, as we see with 44 points, that is expected in this game. So it's going to be a stay away for me as of now, but I am a bit concerned about how ugly this game could be. All right, next game, LSU at Florida. This is just a big stinker for me. I think both teams are not very good. I think Jaden Daniels is pretty terrible. I think that Florida has been relatively terrible. As we see here, total's not super high. They're not expected to be a bunch of points here. I'm going to stay away from this game because this is not a game I want to watch. I just think that these teams are not very interesting. It's just a bunch of bad quarterback play realistically all around here. So what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I lean Florida a little bit just because I think they're learning to embrace their strength offensively, which is running the ball and not allowing Richardson to throw it much. And the fact that Richardson threw for over 400 yards versus Tennessee shows how bad Tennessee's pass defense is. Because if you look at his game logs, like Richardson has really struggled to throw the ball in every other game. Florida's pass game has been a disaster. Florida's rush defense has been a disaster as well. So I think a situation where you see both teams run the ball a lot. And I don't know. I think Florida has, like, Montrell Johnson's been playing pretty well. I think if they feed the running game that they can move the ball on LSU a bit. This is another game where I don't think there's going to be a lot of explosive plays and a lot of points being scored, but I'd lean Florida a bit.
Yeah, I probably would lean Florida. I really don't want to watch this game. I really am just not interested in these teams. I've seen at this point of the year enough of Jaden Daniels and enough of Anthony Richardson that I'm just not interested at this point to really watch any more of them. All right, next game we have Clemson against Florida State. As you guys see, line has moved quite a bit towards Florida State. So I'm going to keep in my trend that I've been having of recent weeks. I don't think Florida State's that good. They lost Trayshawn Ward. He got injured last week. I think Clemson has actually looked decent this season, and they've been way better. Based on the line, definitely makes you indicate that Vegas wants you on the Clemson side. So I definitely think Vegas likes Florida State here, but man, I just can't get behind it right now. I just think that Clemson's probably going to win this game, probably win it by 2 touchdowns. I just think Florida State's not very good. I think that they have been a bit lucky early in the season to make things happen. In the last couple weeks, they have picked up a couple losses, but for me, Clemson's just a far better team. So what's your thoughts here on this one?
Yeah, I think this is kind of the classic situation where you want to be on the same side as the bookmaker, but it doesn't feel great. And the fact that the line has moved that so much, like if you were caught it early and caught like a 7, you're probably feeling pretty good here. But I'm not going to be the person that jumps on it after all the movements happen. So I'll just pass here. I'm going to root for Florida State to win just because I don't want to see Clemson in the playoff. So that's kind of where I'm at. Let's go Seminoles, knock off Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I will say that this is definitely a spot where you want to be on the book side, and the book side is definitely Florida State here.
You see, the percent of bets, it's 83-17 right now. I mean, they're not going to move line into something that they don't want to take a position on.
Yeah.
And when they're already taking more Clemson money anyway.
Yeah. So I will stay away. When I say I like Clemson here, I'm going to stay away from this game. I just don't think Florida State's very good. But this is definitely a situation where you probably want to be on the Florida State side of things if you're on either side of the game. All right. Next game, Mississippi State against Kentucky. We see Kentucky is a 7-point dog here. It's moved a little bit more in favor of Mississippi State. I don't know if Will Levis is going to play. As of right now, it looks like Will Levis is big time questionable. Of all the quarterback situations, I think he's the most questionable of the situations. everything else, it seems like one side is more indicated as it's going to happen than this. But I'll let you go first with this game. What's your thoughts here?
It sounds like Levis practiced yesterday, but kind of limited. So I really don't know what to make of him. Also, Dane Key and Tavian Robinson are questionable as well. So they have a lot of injury concerns. So if they were fully healthy, this game would probably be closer to a pick 'em, maybe Mississippi State by 3 or so. I think the line definitely indicates that Levis is going to be limited or not playing, but I guess we'll see as the week goes on. I mean, Kentucky's defense is very good, but Mississippi State has been solid overall. You know what they're going to do, the short passing game to move the ball, and I don't know how much Kentucky can fully slow that down. So it's a matter of can they limit touchdowns and hold them to field goals, and then hope Kentucky can break off a few big plays to stay in it. C-Rod has actually been pretty good. He came right back into like a full workload, so that's definitely a positive for them. And Mississippi State's run defense isn't as good as it's been in the past couple of years, so they could lean on that a bit and find some success. 7 points is a lot for this kind of matchup, I think. So, I mean, push comes to shove, I'd probably lean Kentucky here and getting the points, but not a game that I'm going to be highlighting.
For sure. I probably would lean Mississippi State for the reasons you alluded to. I think it's going to be a pretty close game, though. Even if Levis doesn't play, it probably is a relatively close game because Kentucky's defense is relatively strong. So I would probably stay away from this one, but I definitely would like Mississippi State. If it gets under a touchdown, like we get back to like 6.5, or like as you see, like we've seen some 6.5s, and you can probably find a 6.5 here somewhere. But if you can get under 6.5 or under a touchdown, I would lean more so Mississippi State. But as it is at 7, I probably would stay away. All right. Last game of the week that we'll be covering, Utah against USC. So I like Utah in this game. I think that USC has looked very fraudulent. Alex,
nope. You can't take my play. You can't take my words. I have written down USC is fraudulent. Okay, go ahead.
It looks like Alex is unhappy with this decision. It looks like he probably is going to be on the same side as me, so it limits his ability to make up some games here. The plus side for Alex is it will also limit his ability to fall behind further, which is probably a better thing for him right now.
There's value
in that, watching USC games this far this year, Caleb Williams has just looked not great. I think that we will see Utah be able to obliterate the USC defense. The USC defense has not been gashed as hard as it was earlier in the season. Teams have struggled a bit more, but I do not think the unit is good whatsoever. So I think that Utah probably comes out here and wins this game relatively handedly and sends USC hopes and dreams crashing out of the season. But I just have not been impressed with what I've seen from USC. I probably watched 4 games of theirs. Obviously, one was the Oregon State game where it was awful. Like, well, I don't know how they pulled out a win in that game, much less it was just awful. It was so bad. So anyways, I like Utah here. I think Utah is a better side. I think they're a better team. I think they're at home. I know they're at home, so it's just a much better spot for Utah here. So Alex, why don't you bring this one home on the Utah USC game?
Yeah, like USC is like that, like the Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad meme where like they can't keep getting away with this. Like that's been their whole season so far. Like I've been pounding the drum on USC being overrated, like during the summer, during the season, and they sit here 6-0, ranked 7th in the country. So I look like a giant idiot. But I think this is finally where their fraudulent nature will be exposed, and Utah will pound them into oblivion. So I like Utah here. They're the better offense. They're the better defense. They're playing at home. They're not a big enough favorite. People are going to bet USC also because they're getting 3.5, that hook over the key number. So it's a situation where like everything aligns. Obviously, I'm going to just kind of hold off through the week and see if I can get a 3 somewhere without like buying down. But Utah is going to be the play for me. This is a great spot for them. Their defense isn't as elite as it has been in the past, but their offense is better than it has been in the past. So I'm all over Utah here.
Yeah, plus it looked like Tavian Thomas was out of the doghouse last week. So they're actually going to have like a full-powered offense instead of limiting their best weapon. But like you said, it's at 3.5. It's a good spot to wait. For the purposes of this show, obviously, we can't do that. But for the purposes of where the line is, 3.5, like it could go to 5 and it's not that big of a deal to you, whereas getting it at 3 is a much greater deal. So I definitely think it's a spot where you can wait. And if it starts going up, then you can obviously take it at 4, 4.5. But I think it might be a spot you can wait and see if you can get it at 3 somewhere.
Yeah, and the reason why I think it could move to 3 is just because, like, you see the number here, like 70% of the bets have been on USC plus 3.5. So if they want to balance action at all, but there's also the thing where I'm assuming a lot of sharp bettors like the Utah side here, so they might be a little bit afraid to move it to 3, lose their position on the game, and then take a bunch of Utah money. So my assumption is that it probably stays at 3.5, 4, but I'll wait just to see, because I don't think you pay a big penalty for losing that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us here on week number 7. We're going to go into our 3 bets of the week. Alex, I'll let you go first. I think I went first last week.
All right, got Tennessee plus 7 versus Bama. Oklahoma State plus 4 against TCU. We need to check that and make sure it didn't move to 3.5. But I wrote these down late last night, so we'll double check. Then Utah 3.5 versus USC.
All right, so for me, I like Iowa State plus 16.5 versus Texas. Going into the Tennessee game, I like Alabama versus Tennessee over 65.5, and I also like Utah minus 3.5 versus USC. So we will see if the game we split provides a winner again this week like it did last week. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Please, if you are watching, make sure you smash the like and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it. We will be back next week. Good luck to you guys all in week 7. Hopefully, my Nittany Lions remain undefeated and continue their push towards the playoff. For Alex, I'm Sean. Good luck to everyone this week. We'll see you guys back here next week.